Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Another episode of One True Sport Daily. Once again, it's Ryan Droste here of the Top Rope Nation podcast, guest hosting for my guy, Zach Haydorn, who is still off on assignment, but he'll be back later this week. So I'm here with you again, just like Friday, to talk all the latest news in the world of pro wrestling with you. Lots going on right now. As we go on the air, just had some breaking news from the WWE, which we will get to momentarily. We got WWE SmackDown to talk about. We got AEW Collision to talk about. Raw tonight, of course, this big announcement from WWE about Indianapolis and the future with PLEs happening there. So much to get to. I am happy to be here with you guys once again on One True Sport. Go ahead and help out the channel. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out everything that's going on here at One True Sport. Lots of exciting things happening. You can go to onetruesport.com, find out how you can support the channel and gain exclusive benefits. Like tonight, there is going to be an exclusive question and answer session with the legend himself, the natural Dustin Rhodes. You can get involved, figure out how. onetruesport.com, and then of course find all the content here on the YouTube channel. We got new content going up from the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Jake the Snake Roberts, Arn Anderson, Rob Van Dam, all kinds of stuff happening. Exclusive merchandise, brand new 4 Horsemen merchandise over at onetruesport.com, so you can check out all of that. And if you want to support the channel and you want to support me today, go ahead and hit us with the super chats. Otherwise, just give us your comments on all of the stories that we go through today as we talk about the latest happenings in the world of professional wrestling. It would help if I got my notes up here on the screen. Come on, Ryan, what are you doing? All right, here we go. What should we start with? We got SmackDown. We got this big announcement from the WWE. I think let's start off with the announcement, because this is what's trending right now on social media. And WWE announced just this morning that they have signed an exclusive deal. They have never done this before, where they have signed a deal to host multiple major PLEs in one city. They've announced that a future edition of WrestleMania, a 2-night edition of SummerSlam, and this coming February, the 2025 Royal Rumble will be in Indianapolis, Indiana, at Lucas Oil Stadium, home, of course, of the Indianapolis Colts. Let me just read right from the release here. It says WWE and Indiana Sports Corp today announced a first-of-its-kind partnership that will bring WWE's 3 largest stadium events, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Royal Rumble, to Indianapolis, kicking off with the Royal Rumble on February 1st, 2025 at Lucas Oil Stadium. And they will host all 3 premium live events, including a 2-night SummerSlam and a 2-night WrestleMania in future years. They also go on to say that as part of this partnership, they will have Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and WWE live events, translation house shows, from arenas across Indiana, including Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, and Evansville throughout the partnership. Now, of course, there has been an edition of WrestleMania in Indianapolis in the past. WrestleMania 8, 1992 was actually one of the lowest drawing WrestleManias of all time. Lots of free tickets, still empty seats all over that stadium for that one. And I know for a long time, WWE kind of held a grudge against Indiana for how that show drew, but obviously all has been forgiven. They've had lots of big events there in the 30 years plus since that point in time, and they are finally going to be bringing WrestleMania back to Indianapolis. And I mean, that is a tremendous stadium. I mean, they've had big time sporting events, Final Fours, Super Bowls, all at Lucas Oil Stadium. So definitely capable of hosting these huge shows, and a lot to look forward to if you're in the Indianapolis region. I'm not too far away, so I'll probably hit up at least a couple of those shows for sure. Andrew, no one disparaged the greatness of Mania 8. Hey, underrated WrestleMania, in my opinion. Bret Hart and Roddy Piper, can't go wrong. Flair and Savage, also great match. But yeah, they should have got more people in there for that show. But 92 WWF was a little bit rough. When I saw this announcement, and you see I'm wearing the Chicago Bears shirt today, so I'll just go down this road for a second. It's a little bit surprised on WrestleMania, because if you don't follow sports news, the Chicago Bears are looking at building a new stadium. They haven't got it off the ground, a lot of politics in the way, but eventually that's going to get built. And I assume when this new Bears stadium gets built, they will run WrestleMania there immediately. And Indianapolis is not too far away from Chicago. And so it's kind of hard to imagine them doing WrestleMania that close together, both in proximity and in years. So I would assume that the Indianapolis WrestleMania will be relatively soon. This new Bears stadium, you're probably looking at 2030 at the earliest, and they're going to want to give them a few years to breathe, given Indianapolis and Chicago are not too far away from each other. But I mean, it looks like the Midwest has some big time WWE events to look forward to. You got Minneapolis with SummerSlam in 2026. You're going to have Indianapolis sometime around there too, and Indianapolis WrestleMania, probably a Chicago WrestleMania in the next decade. So lots of things happening here in the Midwest, and a huge announcement for Indianapolis. And it's no surprise that they announced this today because WWE Raw is in Indianapolis tonight. More on that in a little bit. We'll talk about what is on the agenda for Raw tonight. But before we get there, let's rewind. Give me your thoughts in the chat on what you saw during SmackDown on Friday night. It was a big show. Honestly, to me, it was one of the most entertaining episodes of SmackDown in quite some time. It was a really good show. Of course, they started out with CM Punk making his return again to Chicago. I believe this is his third time he's been in the Allstate Arena since returning to WWE at Survivor Series last year. And I mean, they were packing them in, sold out crowd, not quite as many people as they had for the Raw there a couple of months ago when they had the fans, behind the entranceway, but it was pretty close. Crowd was raucous. We talked about this on 1TS Daily back on Friday. One of the best arenas in the country for pro wrestling. The sound really reverberates around that arena because of the wooden ceiling and everything. It's super loud in there, and that came across on TV. This crowd was hot right from the start, and Punk comes out there, and he is interrupted by a very distraught Paul Heyman, who warned him to get out of there because he heard on the radio that Chicago was Punk's town, and Solo Sikoa did not like that. And the Bloodline was going to come out and attack CM Punk. And eventually they did come out and there was a confrontation. But Cody Rhodes comes out and he makes the save for Punk. Hey, David, thanks for checking in. Later in the show, we get Drew McIntyre. And the way they shot this, you guys, was phenomenal. If you didn't see it, there's a backstage segment going on right in front of like one of the garage doors to backstage. And that garage door slowly goes up. And Drew McIntyre behind the garage door is taking out CM Punk. And he puts him on his shoulders in this fireman's carry, and he carries him all the way from backstage out to the stage. He dumps the bloody Punk on the ramp, does Punk's little kneeling pose on the ramp, and he leaves. I thought this was awesome. And we were just getting started because the show had so much. I mean, the big headline was what happened at the end, and I see Andrew has already commented on this in the chat, so we'll talk about it. Yeah, we had the debut of Jacob Fatu, 32-year-old MLW star, former MLW world champion, of course, a member of the legendary Anoa'i family, and the son of the Tonga Kid. If you guys were not aware, check out Jacob Fatu's work in MLW and elsewhere. Dude is a phenomenal talent. You saw this come across at the end of SmackDown. They had a match between Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa, but it never really got going because you had the interference, of course, from the Bloodline. You had Randy Orton and Kevin Owens make the save. But then, you had Solo Sikoa cornered in the ring. And he was begging off Cody Rhodes. And out from the crowd comes Jacob Fatu. And the crowd knew who he was. They popped huge for this, and they gave Jacob all the offense. He just demolished Cody. He dumps him on the ring announcer's table outside, or the broadcast table, I should say. And he goes up top, and he hits this insane splash off the top rope through the table. Looked tremendous on TV. Jacob, doing the whole wild man thing with his personality. He did a spear over by the ring bell as well at one point in time. He came across like a huge star. I saw Jacob Fatu. is already the #1 selling merch seller on WWE Shop as of this morning. His new t-shirt. Guys, if you didn't see this, this was awesome. Loved it. David, send in the super chat. $5. Have a coffee on me, Ryan. Thank you. I will have a coffee. I'll get another one right after I get off the air. Appreciate that, man. It's a crazy scene here at the Droste household right now. I got to tell you, a little peek behind the curtain. My wife is out of town on business. I got 3 kids, 3 girls. They're running rampant out there somewhere. I told my oldest, you got to keep the other 2 quiet for 30 minutes, whatever you got to do. So I apologize if my children come running in here and they look like Jacob Fatu with the wild eyes and everything. I'm trying to keep them at bay, but so far it's been good. I'm a little worried, but it's going good so far. David, Jacob Fatu is amazing. He is great talent. The Samoan werewolf, indeed. David, I raised 2 daughters. The third would have broken me. I embrace the girl dad label. I got 2 of these daughters really into pro wrestling, by the way. They love it. So again, it would be that shocking if they ran in here like Jacob Fatu. Hopefully not, but we might have a guest appearance. We'll see. So yeah, that was an awesome way to end the show. I mean, we've got this bloodline Civil War segment or storyline, I should say, going on right now. I mean, everyone's fantasy booking this online. Are we going to have like the old bloodline with Roman coming back, with the Usos taking on the new bloodline at Survivor Series or something like that? Who knows? But I mean, this new bloodline now with Paul Heyman basically being kept hostage by Solo Sikoa. And I got to say, Paul Heyman, his acting on the show was maybe the biggest highlight for me. He's backstage just begging with Solo Sikoa to not attack CM Punk. He's got tears in his eyes. Solo tells him, because Paul's saying Roman said that CM Punk was off limits. And Solo tells him, I got news for you. Roman isn't coming back. And Paul just has tears in his eyes as he goes out for this main event. Paul Heyman was unreal on SmackDown. Well worth watching the Paul Heyman segments. But yeah, the new bloodline, Paul Heyman being kept hostage as the wise man. Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, Jacob Fatu. This is a formidable group. And if you had any question that WWE fans would know who these guys are, just watch that pop. I know Chicago's a hardcore wrestling city, but I mean, watch that pop Jacob Fatu got when he came out. It was awesome. So we had that. We had Punk and Drew McIntyre. We had some surprising results in the Money in the Bank qualifier matches. They did one between Orton, Tama Tonga, and Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes stole the victory. Maybe not surprising if you watch One True Sport Daily on Friday, which I hosted, though, because I talked about how I was forecasting this 6-man between the Bloodline and Orton and Cody and KO for Money in the Bank. And so I said I didn't think Orton would win the match. He didn't. Carmelo Hayes stole the victory. Looking forward to seeing Carmelo in the Money in the Bank match here in what? It's like a week. It's coming up, or 2 weeks. It's coming up soon. Next weekend's Forbidden Door. 2 big pay-per-views in the next couple of weeks. Chelsea Green wrestled Bianca Belair, Mia Yim. Chelsea Green stole the victory there. She's in the Money in the Bank qualifier match. We got a little interaction between Bianca and Jade backstage, and they talked about how they are going to be going after those women's tag team titles and trying to get them back. And then we had Kevin Owens, Grayson Waller, and Andrade, with Andrade getting the victory and getting into the Money in the Bank qualifying match. And we also had a segment with LA Knight and Logan Paul. He didn't think Logan Paul was there. Logan Paul did the run-in. So it was a memorable edition of SmackDown. Let's see, let me check up on the chat here. Yeah, I mean, they are killers. I agree, Andrew. It's a completely different feel than Roman and the Usos. And when you get those 2 versions of the Bloodlines face to face, it's going to be awesome. Paul with the quote, "Take me with you." The quote of the night to CM Punk. That was great. Really like that. Yeah, you couldn't pick a better city, quite honestly, to make a debut in, especially if you're an MLW star. MLW, like Jacob Fatu, they run Chicago all the time. Okay, so yeah, that was pretty much SmackDown. That's what was happening there. Now, I actually was not able to watch SmackDown live. I watched this on Saturday back to back with Collision. And I love both of these wrestling promotions. Let me just get that out of the way. Frankly, a lot of times recently, I like AEW a little bit more when it comes to the style of wrestling I like watching, even though I like them both. But there's been a lot of chatter about AEW and their production and what the shows look like lately. And I got to tell you, like I could kind of see that before, but when I watch these shows back to back, it really stood out to me. Collision and the way that the production on that show looks right now, they have got to improve it. It looked extremely minor league versus what I saw on SmackDown. And I don't mean just like crowd size. I mean the way the show is shot with the lighting. The colors look way more dull than WWE. It's too dark in the arena. And to me, if you go back and you watch AEW when it started, go back to those early Dynamites, it was a really bright looking show. That was one of the things that really sold me on AEW. The production looked great. To me, it called back to WCW, which WCW actually always looked, at least in the early days, it looked better than WWE. Their lighting was better. Everything was brighter. And that's how AEW looked initially. And right now, everything, the colors look really gray, really muted. I mean, honestly, TNA's lighting looks better than AEW lately. They have got to get this production together. And I know they've hired away some people from WWE. They've tried redoing, the sets for AEW Dynamite a couple of times. They're now in their third set. I don't think any of them are as good as that initial Dynamite set they had back in 2019 and up until 2021 or something like that. Production just really stood out to me as I turned on Collision. I'm like, wow, this doesn't look great compared to what I just watched. Now in the ring, it was a really good show. I enjoyed Collision. I thought the main event between Brian Cage and Will Ospreay was the best match from Brian Cage in a long time, which maybe not surprising being in there with a talent like Will Ospreay, but that was a really good main event. I enjoyed that quite a lot. And the big thing though, coming out of Collision was that Jeff Jarrett promo. Did you guys see this Jeff Jarrett promo? If you did, hit me up in the chat. Jeff Jarrett, they aired this segment where he talked about why he is in the Owen Hart tournament. And if you missed it on One True Sport Daily on Friday, you can go back and watch in the archives. But I brought the bracket for the Owen tourney up on the screen, and we talked about it, and we tried to forecast where this tournament was going. And I talked about how, there was people online questioning Jeff Jarrett being in the tournament. I couldn't believe it because Jeff Jarrett clearly was tied to Owen Hart. They were tag team champions in the last year of Owen's career. Owen's last match ever was teaming with Jeff Jarrett against Edge and Christian at the Allstate Arena, where SmackDown was at the other night, the night before over the Edge 99. And so anyone that was surprised that Jeff Jarrett would be in this tournament, I don't know what they were thinking, because that's who Owen was with at the end of his life as a tag team. And, Jeff did this segment where he talked about his history with Owen, and it was cut in with pictures of him and Owen together. I know one of the shots was from the tour the WWF did back, I think, in 94 of the Middle East, where they were together, 94 or 95. Sean Waltman was in a couple of those shots. And I thought they did a good job kind of laying out to the general audience, why Jeff Jarrett makes sense above anybody to be in this tournament. And Jeff quoted a Toby Keith song that says, "I'm not as good as I used to be, but every once in a while, for one time, I'm as good as I ever was," or something along those lines. I apologize. Not a big Toby Keith fan. Rest in peace. And frankly, they set up Jeff Jarrett almost like you would think he's winning this tournament. It was a hell of a promo. And then on their YouTube channel, they put out the uncut interview with Jeff Jarrett, which is even better. So if you haven't seen it, go to the AEW channel and hear Jeff Jarrett talk about his friendship with Owen Hart. And gets very emotional, obviously, talking about riding up and down the road with Owen and Owen's death and how he didn't really grieve Owen's death properly until just a few years ago when he went through therapy. It's really powerful stuff. That said, I don't think you can have Jeff Jarrett win this tournament in main event Wembley Stadium in 2024. But if you watch that interview, God, you would think that he would. We know Jeff Jarrett is matched up against the wild card in this tournament. And I went through a couple of possibilities on Friday. I mentioned Hangman Page. I mentioned Will Ospreay. I mean, it's pretty tough to imagine Jeff Jarrett winning against those guys. Maybe they have a 20, 25 minute knock it down, drag it out brawl, and Jarrett comes real close, but he doesn't quite get the victory and he's emotional when he leaves. Maybe that's the direction they go. I don't know. I'm really interested who this wild card is going to be, though, because when I watched the promo, I thought, man, Jeff Jarrett's going to win at least a couple of matches. It might make sense to get him to the finals in Calgary. He talked about that in the promo, that he wants to be there in Calgary, Owen's hometown, wrestling for the Owen Hart Memorial Cup. We'll see. Sean checking in the chat. Hey, Sean, it's been a while. Yep. See you over on social media once in a while. Tune into Top Rope Nation, you guys, every Thursday night. That's where you can check me, my podcast. Sometimes we do other shows, other days of the week, but always Thursday nights. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever podcasts are found. So check out the Jeff Jarrett thing. If you didn't see it, great stuff on Saturday night, and especially the uncut version that we saw on the AEW YouTube channel. So yeah, I mean, it was a fun weekend of pro wrestling. Great SmackDown, good episode of Collision, and now we got this big announcement this morning with WWE in Indianapolis. And here's what we got for WWE Raw tonight. You guys tell me in the chat who you think is going to win these Money in the Bank qualifying matches. All right, the first one we have tonight is Braun Strowman versus Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed, Money in the Bank qualifier. I guess Chad Gable lives. He, in fact, did not die at the hands of the Wyatt Six last Monday night. He's wrestling in this match. Got this off of WWE.com. We've got Lyra Valkyria taking on Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane. Money in the Bank qualifying match also tonight. Who do you guys think is going to walk out victorious and get into the Money in the Bank match here in just under 2 weeks in those two matches? This Money in the Bank card is shaping up quite nicely, I have to say. Elsewhere on the card tonight in Indianapolis, WWE Raw, we got Karrion Kross taking on Kofi Kingston. We've got Braun Breaker against Ludwig Kaiser. And Drew McIntyre making his return to WWE Raw after that heinous attack on CM Punk just up the road in Chicago on Friday night on SmackDown. I'm pulling up WWE's social media page to make sure I'm not missing any late breaking news. Honestly, WWE.com has not been updated very well lately. I got to go to their Twitter feed, or sorry, their X feed to see the card, the most recent card update. No, that's it. Nothing else announced as of right now. So that's the WWE Raw card tonight. And then the Wyatt Six. What do you guys think? Can you get the Wyatt Six tonight? Andrew says Strowman's going to go over. Valkyria is going to go over. Drew was doing the Lord's work. Excuse me. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, these triple threats, they've all had kind of surprising finishes. They've been good matches. They don't overstay their welcome. I've been a fan so far. If we pull up the Money in the Bank card and we take a look at who's in now. So we got 3 of the 6 on the men's side. So we've got Jey Uso, and then as I talked about earlier, Carmelo Hayes and Andrade getting in there. So we got 3 to be determined, 1 tonight on Raw in the men's. And then on the women's side, we've got Io Sky, we've got Chelsea Green, and 4 to be determined yet in the women's match. And then confirmed for Money in the Bank, Damian Priest taking on Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. Speaking of Money in the Bank, okay, I talked about the 6-man that I was kind of predicting for Money in the Bank. And on Friday's show, I said, that I predicted that Randy would turn on Cody out of that 6-man, and you get Randy and Cody at SummerSlam. And I mean, just hours after I talked about that here on the show, it started making the rounds. I think it started in the Wrestling Observer newsletter from Meltzer that Solo Sikoa and Cody is the direction for SummerSlam. And I want to know your thoughts on that, because that does not, despite how well the Bloodline storyline has been going, I don't know that I buy Solo Sikoa as a world championship contender against Cody Rhodes right now. I mean, they're clearly kind of building towards that after Jacob Fatu's debut and how SmackDown went. I just think Cody and Randy is a much bigger star power match for the second biggest show of the year. Evidently, they're going to go bloodline, though, for Cody. But to me, if you're headlining SummerSlam with Cody and Solo, they've built up nicely, but before Roman left, the guy was losing a lot of matches. I mean, you wouldn't think he's a world title contender. And then on the other side, are you going to have Damian Priest and Gunther? Or does this make it more likely that Seth Rollins wins the title to give that world title picture on Raw a little more star power? Because, I mean, no offense to Damian Priest, big fan of him, have been ever since the ROH days as Punishment Martinez. I don't know that Damian Priest and Gunther is a SummerSlam title match. I think you need a little more star power in there. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they do switch it to Rollins if Cody and Solo Sikoa is actually the plan for SummerSlam. Yeah, it does allow for a Rock return, if that is the plan. I know that's what people have been fantasy booking for SummerSlam at show close. But that'll be a surprise return, So I guess, they don't have to worry about selling pay-per-views these days anymore. So I guess, they can draw interest with the surprise return and get people to watch the replay on Peacock. It's not kind of like the old days where you were trying to sell the pay-per-view on Star Power. And most of these tickets have been sold for the Cleveland Browns Stadium at this point. It just, to me as a wrestling fan, I look at SummerSlam as the second biggest show of the year, and I look for marquee matches, and those two title matches do not scream marquee to me right now. Looking for a little more star power in them, but we'll see how this plays out. Maybe it's still in flux. We still got a pay-per-view to go before then, with Money in the Bank, and a lot of this is going to shake out coming from there. What do you guys think about the Money in the Bank gimmick? I was really high on Money in the Bank when it started. Maybe we can talk about this a little bit on the show tomorrow because we're getting close on time. Lately, I have kind of felt that Money in the Bank is losing its luster a bit. You see people winning the Money in the Bank briefcase who maybe don't seem like world championship material at the time. Now, Damian Priest has done a good job as world champion. Otis, I mean, are they getting kind of saddled with this gimmick? And it's like, all right, it's July or it's June. We gotta have Money in the Bank. Who do we actually want to put the briefcase on? I mean, if you look at the field right now, Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, I guess you can make the case for Jey to be Mr. Money in the Bank, although it's really a heel gimmick. It's such a cheap way to win the world title that it works better with heels, I feel. At the same time, I don't really buy Carmelo or Andrade as world title contenders right now. On the women's side, Chelsea Green, no. Io Sky, it would work for her. I could see that. We got a lot of the field left to go, though, so we'll have to see who gets added to this match, and then we can talk about predictions for Money in the Bank in Toronto here on July 6th. So a lot to be determined, just some early thoughts as that plays out here. All right, we are coming up on 30 minutes, you guys. So I want to tell you again about a couple of things going on here in the One True Sports world. And then on my podcast, Top Rope Nation, I think we're going to get out of there. Or we're going to get out of here, I should say. And I'll be back tomorrow again, sitting in for Zach. And I'll be back on Wednesday as well. And then Zach will be back on Thursday from his trip to be back here with you. So again, check out onetruesport.com. Subscribe to the channel while you're here. It would be awesome if you guys signed up to become members, and you can join that question and answer session for members with Dustin Rhodes tonight, only for onetruesport.com members. Check it out over on the website. See you later, David. Hopefully see you tomorrow morning. Appreciate you tuning in. And yeah, check out all the content here from the One True Sport gang. Rob Van Dam, Magnum TA, Jake Roberts, Medusa, Greg Gagne, Bill Alfonso, Kurt Angle, the $1 Million Man. The list goes on. And check out more from me. Would love it if you'd help me out and subscribe to our channel. Search Top Rope Nation here on YouTube. Subscribe. It's free. Check out our shows or check us out on the podcast feed wherever podcasts are found. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Enjoy Monday Night Raw. We'll see you then.